Let's listen as Lorraine LaPointe, coach, therapist, educator, speaker, and founder of Head Heart Synergy, brings together another enlightened guest to inspire and motivate us to move forward, achieve our dreams and desires, so that we experience midlife awakening.
And I'm your host, Lorraine LaPointe. Today we'll enjoy another candid conversation that reveals how to bring back a sense of balance and how to find forward focus. Today, take just a few moments to join us as we explore the possibilities and the perspectives that provide us with greater inner peace, power, passion, and purpose. Because that's what I call living at the edge of fulfillment in a midlife awakening.
Well, hello and welcome, and it's so good to see you for all of our friends around the world, actually. And this week, we're talking about why people feel alienated and how your decision to follow up can be the elixir that they need to move forward in positive ways, and how following up can create more abundance with ease in your own life. So, you may be surprised to know that some people are more prone to feeling alienated from those around them. And if you're such a person, you probably wondered where this feeling comes from, and more importantly, how to stop it. So let's talk about why some brains are wired a little differently. Some brains naturally have either more or less amounts of a vital neurotransmitter that causes the feelings of detachment. And that neurotransmitter is known as dopamine. It's actually the same chemical that we get addicted to through the overuse of technology. You know, we get a little shot of dopamine every time we check our phone for a new text or a new message, or when we get rewarded when we play a game or see something that's exciting on our screen. That's that little shot of dopamine, you know? And this neurotransmitter plays an important role in the ability for us to connect with each other, to feel the reward of social interaction, and our ability to maintain our own personal space and the space of those around us, because a lack of the neurotransmitter is responsible for forms of anxiety, detachment, and feelings of being alienated from others. So one reason for an imbalance of dopamine is trauma. You know, the kind of trauma that results from a loss of trust or a distorted perception of the world. You know, when something happens to us, often we see things differently or with a different lens is how, and in terms of how we look at the world. And this prevents us from being able to fully connect with others. It becomes like an invisible wall almost. And the trauma can actually result in avoidance and isolation. And so I'm wondering, does any of this resonate with you? You know, because although you may seem to participate in activities with others, there remains this, or there can remain this pervasive sense of aloneness. You know, that leads to a constant craving of connection, you know, like we want to be with others. If you feel like this, you might also feel like no one cares or no one understands you. And this is a painful feeling. It's painful to feel alone and misunderstood. And through our experiences, many know that true loneliness doesn't come from being, you know, by yourself. You can feel alone and disconnected even when you're in a room full of people. And typically, when your dopamine levels are off, your brain only focuses on differences between people. You become susceptible to the lie of those inner saboteurs that whisper in your mind saying, it's pointless to reach out. No one cares. Of course, failing to reach out is also disastrous, especially if you're trying to run any form of business, because business relies on people making connections. It relies on solving problems, satisfying another person's wants, needs, and desires. In fact, it's really This is the basis of all human relationships, is that connection. So it may surprise you to learn that the feeling of being alienated from other people can also come from a place of being overly self-absorbed. By focusing too much on your own feelings, we can overthink. We can immerse ourselves in that negative self talk. And it becomes a form of self absorption when we're feeling like we're unable to make meaningful connections, or we distort conversations. So we might avoid small talk, or we might avoid expressing our own opinion. So our conversations then feel like they lack substance. We lose interest, we don't want to communicate, and you can see that that perpetuates the cycle of isolation and detachment. So the question is, what can we do instead? Well, rather than focus on the negative, we can focus on providing value to others. We can enjoy expressing our opinion and take the time to focus on what unites us with other people. Listen for and offer topics of interest to you and to others, and empathize with others as they tell you about themselves, so that you can better understand their world. And on today's show, our guest, Debbie Hoffman, understands how important it is to consistently follow up, to build better relationships so that you thrive, not just in business, but also in your life. And Debbie has developed a heart-centered approach to following up. And the follow-up helps you remain connected, to create value and to serve others from the heart, so that you don't leave conversations unfinished, or questions unanswered, or comments unresponded to. Today, Debbie will share her wealth of knowledge on the art of authentic follow-up and how that leads to abundance with ease. So we'll talk about how to connect with others in a way that reliably helps people, uh, and helps your potential business income from slipping through the cracks. Because people need to build deep, profitable relationships to get more yeses in their business and find a tribe of interesting, excited, and enthusiastic people to surround themselves with. But before we dive right in, for those I haven't met before, I'm Lorraine LaPointe, and my work is also with heart-centered professionals as I help you discover ways of using your strengths, your gifts, your talents to more effectively serve others. The opposite of alienation and loneliness is found in shifting your thoughts and beliefs so that you can feel more fulfilled and purposeful. And as my clients get stronger and broaden their perspectives, they gain awareness and they see possibilities and opportunities that they didn't see that were available before. And your personal growth and business development is one important reason I reach out through this radio and talk for TV program, so that we can create that inspiring, safe, and sacred space as we explore different ways to allow us to live with greater peace and power and passion and purpose, as I said at the top of the show. So today, whether you're here live or you've come across us later on, we invite you to engage and connect with us as we broadcast here on all kinds of different places through all kinds of different social media platforms. And I invite you to let us know when you find something in the conversation especially curious by simply adding your comment or question. And our wonderful show producer, who works so hard behind the scenes, will post them up for us. And as you know, every single download, question, like, comment, or share, my company, Head Heart Synergy, supplies a day's worth of fresh water somewhere in the world through the magic of B1G1.com. So I want to thank you for helping me to help others, and I appreciate your participation, which shapes this show and this program into something that's most interesting to you. And today I invite you to take a moment, invite friends and family to join us, especially anyone feeling alienated, as we explore and develop authentic ways to follow up, eliminate loneliness and alienation, and increase your abundance with ease. Here on the Edge of Fulfillment on W4WN.com, which is the Women for Women Network Radio, or Talk for TV. And we'll be right back after this short break.
Did you know video is the future on content? There are 3 good reasons why video is the future of content. Number 1, videos are often more engaging than simple pictures or music alone. Number 2, it's much easier to tell your story through video. Number 3, because we love to watch video, they go viral much faster. Hey, notice you're still watching right now. See how well it works. Next time we can play your video here instead. Ask me how. Shine online on Talk 4 TV and W4WN Radio.
Hey, are you looking for a brighter future? Wishing for greater calm, clarity, and confidence? What if you knew an inside job was the answer? Your mission: stop the inner burn, gain mental fitness so you get more out of life. Imagine in about 15 minutes a day for just 6 weeks. Come on, we'll show you how. Don't miss it. Just go to www.lorraine.gives/m-fitness and join us right now.
Well, welcome back. Let me introduce our guest or tell you about her. Debbie Hoffman is a heart-centered sales and follow-up expert. She's a speaker and a founder of something called Power Up Your Follow-Up. Because after 20 years of working on Wall Street and as a managing director with over 25 billion, that's with a B, in sales, Debbie took her organizational skills and her extraordinary ability to connect with people to create a multiple 6-figure business. And her mission is to support entrepreneurs as they share their gifts and get their message out in a big way so that they can create greater impact. Have Debbie support you in having a reliable follow-up system in place so that people can say yes to you more often. So I'm going to stop talking about her and welcome to the Edge of Fulfillment, Debbie Hoffman.
Hi, Lorraine. It's so wonderful to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's so great to have you here today. And I understand that you are also a best-selling author. I didn't mention that. And I also understand that you have a second book coming out about following up systems that's due out this year. So we got lots to talk about today, but where would you like to begin your story?
Well, I can start it at the beginning.
All right, that was a great place to begin.
Well, it's really what inspired me, like how this all happened, because it's a really interesting story. I was, I worked on Wall Street for 20 years, retired very early, left a very high 6-figure income because I wanted to be with my son. He was 8 at the time, and I had a family. I wanted to be home. So I left and pursued a health and wellness business. And I was at a conference, a women's conference, and I had a vendor booth. And a woman came up to me who was interested in the products that I was offering. And she asked me to follow up with her because she wasn't ready to make a decision on the spot. So I did for 14 months, which is, I know, it's not easy.
Wow.
But I did it, but I had a system. So I was able to do it, right? I didn't know I had a system, but I had a system. And finally, she became a client, and I continued to follow up with her because that's what I did with new customers. They were taking supplements, and I needed to follow up to make sure they were doing okay. One day, she leaves me a message, and she said, "Debbie, you need to teach me your follow-up system." She said, "I really struggle with this. We need to talk." And I'm like, "What?" Like I had no idea what she was talking about. So we get on the phone like a couple of weeks later, and she said, "Debbie, nobody follows up with me the way you do. You have a gift. People struggle with this. You need to teach people how to do this." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I realized, Lorraine, I'm sure your listeners can relate to this. We all have a gift. We all have something that we just do naturally that we take for granted. And sometimes we don't see it as anything special until someone outside of us shares that with that perspective. And that's what my friend Tanya did, because I had no idea. I just did this thing and it came naturally to me. So she invites me to this 3-day event, and the woman who was running the event asked us to all make an easy to say yes to offer for $97, to offer something for $97. So I asked her, what should I offer? And she said, offer a 5-week teleseminar. Remember we did teleseminars back in the day?
We're dating ourselves.
I know. It was a follow-up teleseminar. I said, I don't have a follow-up teleseminar. She says, just offer it. And I was like, whatever. Like, it was just a game. Like, I was just playing around. And she said, when you're at this event, don't talk about your health and wellness products. When people ask you what you do, tell them you're a follow-up coach. So I was like, okay. So I make this offer during like the first day, and the event's over. 3 days later, 2 women came up to me and gave me their credit card. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? So I'm driving home and I call my husband and I say, we need to create a follow-up program because I just sold 2 of them. So I decided, okay, I'm going to invite more people. I might as well. And I'll double the price to $197. I had 24 people or 22 people in the first program, 24 the next time. And then I just kept doing them. And then, well, what's the next step? Well, one-on-one coaching. And then I created a 6-month group program, and 10 years later, 6-figure income every year. Like, it took 14 months to go from 0 to 6 figures with a brand new coaching practice because I had a system in place. And so that's how it got started, that I wasn't looking for this. I didn't wake up one day and say, I'm amazing at follow-up and people struggle with this. I need to teach people this. Like, that's not how it happened. And so it's a pretty cool story because it just, it just happened. It was just the right timing. And my friend believed in me. And she said to me, Debbie, I share with lots of people their gifts, but nobody really does anything with it. Like you did. You heard what I had to say and you took my advice and you ran with it. And I just really appreciate, her. Seriously, if she hadn't said that, I wouldn't be here with you today.
It sounds like her gift is recognizing other people's gift, just like
Yes.
your gift is the gift. Good morning, Sherry. Nice to see you. Good. Your gift is the gift of follow up. Like, you just do it naturally. And I was looking into and doing some research for this show about why people don't follow up.
Oh.
And that's when I was talking about that sense of alienation, that sense of disconnection, that sense of, like, business owners, entrepreneurs have it as well. Good morning, Erica. Good to see you. That sense of, like, why don't we follow up? Why don't we value that reconnection, that sense of, and that's when I discovered the dopamine connection. But I would love to get your take on what you've noticed over the years.
Well, there's lots of reasons why people don't follow up, and I've kind of boiled it down to a few areas. One is one of the biggest things is that, and it's all kind of connected. There are all these fears and limiting beliefs and stories that people make up around follow-up and sales. Like, I don't want to be salesy and pushy. That's like the biggest one, right? So they feel that when they follow up with people, that they're bothering them, they're going to come across aggressive and salesy and pushy. And I totally relate to that because, can I share a quick story here about my experience?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I came out of Wall Street. I was super successful there, but that was an aggressive, salesy, pushy environment. And it was part of the culture and it was accepted. It was just the way people were. So I come into this entrepreneurial world and I'm showing up at networking events and I'm coming across in that same way. I can identify, it means so much when it resonates with your clients. Yeah, so I was coming across in this really similar, aggressive, pushy, salesy way. And I'll never forget, I showed up at this event one day and I was desperate because we had just gone through bankruptcy. We lost our home. My husband was a high-end custom home builder. We lost all of our properties. So I was there like desperate. And I put on my smiley face and I thought, okay, I'm not going to let anybody know. Because back then, nobody talked about foreclosure. Now everybody talks about it. But back then, it was really an uncomfortable, humiliating thing to experience and talk about. So I put a smile on my face. But when you have that desperate energy, when you're attached to your agenda and to the results that you want to achieve, people feel that. So I was walking over to these women and they saw me coming and they actually turned and walked the other way. And they're probably thinking, oh, here she comes again to talk to us about these products. And I was devastated, like, what's going on here? I had no idea, Lorraine. And finally, I had that aha moment that I was attached to my agenda. Like, I was coming across with these same, salesy aggressive, in a salesy aggressive way that served me well on Wall Street. And I did a whole turnaround. Like, I need to show up in service to these people, see how I can help them, let go of my agenda, and everything turned around. And that's when I went from 0 to 6 figures in 14 months with a brand new coaching practice. So that's what I teach my clients. Like, I made all the mistakes. I did everything wrong. And now I'm just streamlining the whole process. So that's why I created a heart-centered, more feminine follow-up. And this is for men and women, because as men and women, we have the feminine side, which is where we connect. And we have the masculine side, which is where, like, we get stuff done. And we need both in business and in life. And I'm just helping my clients to have a balance between the two, because if you're too heart-centered and you don't have enough of the masculine, you won't invite people to work with you. You won't follow up with people. Like, the follow-up is more kind of the masculine, but you can do it in a feminine, heart-centered way where people really appreciate your reaching out to them and that they know that you really care about them and you're showing up in service to them.
Well, and I'd love to dive into the details of this, because I think it is so important. There are so many people out there who are desperate for connection, are desperate for wanting to reach out to people, who want others to reach out to them because they don't have the confidence or they don't know how. And so this is where I see follow-up being so important. You have that initial connection, but then what?
Yeah.
So can we talk about that? Can we dig right into that? Because I think our
There was
viewers and listeners would
one
love
thing
it.
I wanted to share, though, because you were starting earlier about why people don't follow up. And so there was a couple more things. It was the limiting beliefs and the fears and the stories we make up. Oh, they're not interested, or I don't want to bug them, or they're too busy. And the other big thing is that people are not prepared with what they're going to say and what they're going to do. They don't have a process in place, so that they lack confidence. And the people tell me this all the time. I don't follow up with people because I don't know what to say. And I don't want to blow it. So I just don't even call at all. Right. So that's a big, big deal for people. So that's why I really work with my clients on how to be prepared for every step, so they know what they're going to do and they know what they're going to say. And then they're more confident. And then they put out an energy that makes them more magnetic. So that's another big issue of why. And then the third issue is that they're not organized. They don't have systems in place. So, like, clients and money are slipping through the cracks because you can't keep track of, in your head, of all the people you've reached out to and who you need to reach out to again. So they don't have the systems in place. And so they're just kind of scattered and disorganized. This is what my clients tell me when they first start working with me.
And there's nothing worse than feeling scattered and disorganized.
The worst.
Because it sucks your energy.
It does. So those are the three key areas of, key reasons why people don't follow up.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So thank you for that. That's really helpful. And I'm, our listeners and viewers, if you see yourself in what Debbie is saying, if any of those three relate to you, let's hear how it is for you out there. But so what can we do? So as a client, I would come to you and I would say, Debbie, my follow-up sucks, or how do your clients typically present themselves?
So when people come to me, they say, and I teach the entire sales process, and follow-up is a big, big part of it. And so people come to me and they just say, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And some people are brand new in their business and they want to get these systems set up right away so they can build their business more quickly. Some people already are doing well in their business, but they've kind of plateaued. They've hit a wall and they kind of got where they are without systems. So they kind of lucked out. but now they can't scale because they have to have systems in place to scale. And some of my clients are six-figure income earners, but they're working inefficiently. And so I work with them to create, first of all, to be prepared, how to be prepared. So for example, as if you're an entrepreneur and you offer a service, a lot of people will have a discovery session or a breakthrough session, whatever you call it, whatever that conversation is when someone reaches out and says, I'm interested in learning more about what you do to see if we're a good fit. Well, it's being prepared for that conversation of what questions you're going to ask. And I have a client, Marie, and when we were working together, she said, whatever questions come to mind, she just asks. So she had no plan, no process, no roadmap, and her conversion was low. And so we worked on a step-by-step process, what questions to ask and how to handle concerns that come up, like the money objection comes up a lot. What do you do with that? Like, do you just roll over and play dead, or what do you do? And so after working on this whole step-by-step process, she had 2 discovery sessions the next week, and both women signed up to work with her, and she brought in $15,000 in income. And when we talked the next time, she said, Debbie, it was so much easier, and I felt so much more confident, like I knew what I was going to say and what I was going to ask and the process I was going to take people through. So that's the power of being prepared. And that's really where one of the places I start with my clients.
That's awesome, because if you don't have that sense of knowing the roadmap of where you're going, then how do you ever know when you've got there? It's kind of like the Cheshire Cat in, I think it was Alice in Wonderland, who said that the destination doesn't matter if you don't know where you're going.
That's so good.
Yeah. So I come to you, and I've got clients, and I have a beginning part of my business, the strategy session, or even a friendship. Like, this also relates to friendships and relationships. So there's an initial piece, right? A beginning. And then there's the space between the time that you speak to them and they say yes or no. If they say yes, obviously you work with them. And if they say no, there's space. What happens next?
Okay, so there's a few different scenarios. So let's say, and what you said about this relates to your personal life, I just want to touch on that for a second. Follow-up is follow-up. And when you're good at it, you'll be good at it with your friends and your family and your business. And I'm like the one that's always reaching out to all my friends and family. Like, I follow up with them, and that's, I don't make up stories like, oh, they don't call me, so I don't want to call them. Like, I just reach out. When I want to talk to somebody, I reach out. So having these skills is going to help you with your personal life, with your dating life, like with anything that you're doing. So it's not just business. So these skills are transferable to business or to personal life. So to answer your question, if you have a conversation with someone and they're not a no, but maybe they're a no for right now, or maybe they're I need to do something first before I give you the answer. They need to talk to their partner. They need to check their calendar. They need to check their bank account, like whatever they need to do. I always recommend to ask, when will you have a chance to do whatever that thing is that they said they needed to do? And then we can reconnect. So I'm making the appointment with them before we hang up for the next time we're going to connect. And that is a game changer, because if not, you're playing phone tag or email or text tag, and it's a waste of time. So, for instance, I had a woman I'm in process with now who's very interested. She needs to find some resources. So she's going to talk to her son to lend her the money to enroll in my Power Up Your Sales program. And I said, when are you going to have a chance to do that? And she said, tomorrow. And I said, great. Well, when's a good time for us to reconnect? I didn't tell her. I asked her, which is really key, asking for permission. The reason people feel salesy and pushy a lot of the time, Lorraine, is because they're telling people, they're not asking what they want. They're not asking for permission to share the next thing or go the next step. So
what you just said there is so critical.
That's gold.
So critical, because I think new coaches make that mistake often.
Yeah.
is they just assume everybody wants help. They want, they want you to jump right in. And that's not the truth. But if
Yeah.
you ask permission, then the person has opened themselves to at least listen to what you have to say.
Exactly. Their heart is open, their wall comes down. It's
Yeah.
it's the golden nugget of sales and follow-up is to just always ask for permission. And so sometimes you'll make the appointment and the person won't show. And so you just keep, reaching out to them. And I always assume, that something, want to make sure that they're okay. I don't get mad. I don't make it mean anything. Like I got stood up. I just say, I hope you're okay. Because in this day and age, stuff happens to people like all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so there might have been an emergency. They might have gotten sick. Who knows what happened? So I always just start with, I hope you're okay. And we had an appointment to meet today. When's a good time for us to reschedule? So, but you have to have the system in place that I was talking about earlier. I was referring to the customer relationship management system, the technology to keep track. So when you leave a message for someone, you can set a reminder for the next day or 2 days later to reach back out. If not, they'll slip through the cracks. It's just hard to keep track of all this stuff in your head.
I was just going to say, and what is this magic piece of technology? Because when I was a principal, I had an executive assistant in school, and she kept me on track and did a very good job of it I had several different executive assistants and very good at keeping me on track. And of course, as an entrepreneur, I don't have that. And I'm the first one to admit that I can be a little bit all over the place, and I would love to hear more about the systems that you have suggested to keep people like me on track.
So when I talk about systems, there's two parts to it. The first is the technology, and the second part is what you do with it. So I'll share about both. So the CRM, I vetted a bunch of resources. People can go to my website so that you don't waste days and weeks and months researching, because there's so many out there. It's powerupyourfollowup.com/resources. And there you'll see there's some simple, easy to use, affordable ones. And then there's some that are more sophisticated, more expensive. So it really depends on your needs. There's not one size fits all. But what the CRM will help you do is to keep all of your contacts and all their information in one place. So you don't have business cards scattered all over your desk, or pieces of paper, or Excel spreadsheets, or however you've been keeping track of your contacts. You'll take all that information and put it into the CRM. And then when you speak with people, you refer to the notes that you entered in there, so that when you reach out again, you can represence what you talked about before to bring it back, make it top of mind for them. Because when you speak to somebody, their interest is the highest in that moment. When you walk away and time goes by, their interest just drops. Life gets in the way, they get distracted. So you need to represence what the struggle was that they were dealing with, what they said they were looking for support with, and how you could help them. So the CRM helps you with all of that. And then you set the reminder for the next step. And some CRMs will have like a pop-up. Some will send you an email or a text reminder, like time to reach out to Lorraine about XYZ, right? So that's going to help keep you on track. And then you can create templates. So I'm sure all of us as entrepreneurs have an email like that we send out over and over and over again, a very similar email. Whenever that happens, when you send out a similar email out more, for the second time, it's time to create a template. And you store them in the CRM. And when you're ready to send an email to somebody, you just go into their contact and click on the email icon, pick the template you want, tweak it a little bit, and off it goes. And you're going to save so much time, and you'll be so much more efficient when you have these templates. So I could talk about this forever, but also you can tag people where you met them, or tag them if they're a potential client, or maybe they're a potential JV or power partner, or maybe somebody was referred to you. You can tag them referrals. So you keep track of people, so it's easy to find. Like, how many of you ever had a situation where you met somebody at an event and you're trying to remember their name because maybe they're a web designer and you're now looking for a web designer and you can't remember their name, but you remember you met
Yeah.
them at this event. Well, if you had them tagged with the name of the event, you could pull up the tag and you'd see, and it would say web designer, you'd find the person. So it just helps you keep track of people. So that's the first step, having the technology in place. But you can have the most sophisticated, fabulous CRM in the world, but if you don't know what to do with it, you're not going to get the results that you want. So that's where I come in. I help my clients choose the best system for them. And then what do you say when you're calling or emailing or texting? Like, what do you say?
Hi, it's me again. No.
What's that?
I said, hi, it's me again.
Hi, it's me again. I'm just following up. Like, that doesn't work. Right. So I teach my clients to provide value, to leave a message that has interest to them, that, really is inspiring. Right. So it's what to say, and it's how often to follow up, because you don't want to follow up too often, because then that will be perceived as being pushy. What methods of communication are best? And most people send emails, and emails get lost and they don't get people's attention anymore. So I'm an old-fashioned girl, and I believe you pick up the phone and you call people, and then you can follow up with a text or an email, but that's the first step. So those systems need to be in place too. So if they, at the end of a discovery session, say, no, not now, what do you do? What do you say? If they say, I'm interested, but I need to do this thing first, what do you do and what do you say? So I have 100+ scripts and templates for pretty much every scenario imaginable, and I'm constantly adding to it as my clients say, do you have a template or script for this? It's like, no, I don't. I'll create one. So those are the systems that I'm talking about. And there's lots of other little systems that really help, having a calendar link, creating a URL that makes it easy. I have www.talkwithdebbie.com. So when I'm talking to somebody or I'm being interviewed and someone wants to reach out to me for a discovery session, I can give that to them instead of the long, Acuity calendar link, which is a bunch of gobbledygook, right? So there's little systems like that I teach my clients.
Right. And when we assume people don't want to connect, and these are all beautiful, thank you, beautiful ideas on ways to connect. When we believe that people don't want to connect with us, we let's say we have that thought in our minds and we go to reach out to them. As you had said earlier, your energy is off. People get that sense that you're holding back from them, that they're not important. Can we talk about that for a little bit? About how you talk to your clients about how to get in the right headspace to reach out.
So we kind of identify these stories, because I ask, why aren't you following up? And they make up all these crazy stories. Like, we are meaning making machines. We make meaning to everything that happens, and we make everything about us. So if you reach out to somebody and they don't follow up, like my clients are like, they're not interested, or I'm bugging them, or if they were interested, they would call me back. And that's not true. So perfect example of this. Here's another story. So I met a woman who was putting at she worked at one of those workspace places, and they were going to be doing an event for entrepreneurs in the evening, and they had vendor booths, and she invited me to have a vendor booth. So she just kept following up with me, and I had something else going on at the time. It was probably launching my Power Up Your Sales program, or there's something that took priority, and I couldn't look into it at the moment. It's not that I wasn't interested. It's just the timing wasn't good because I had something else that was a higher priority. But she kept following up. And finally, she left a message and she said, the deadline for signing up for a vendor booth is like tomorrow. And so I was like, oh, I got to call her now, right? So I called her back. I signed up. I thanked her for being so persistent, because each time she called me, she kind of raised up in my consciousness and my awareness. She got to the top of the stack of things to do. If she hadn't kept following up with me, out of sight, out of mind, I would have forgotten about it. And so I help people first with these stories. She wasn't making up a story. Debbie's not interested. She just kept following up with me. So we have to stop, notice that there's a story and just put a different story in place. Like, oh, she's just busy. I'm going to, she's got something else going on, or maybe a kid is sick, and I'm just going to keep following up with her until I get the yes or the no. So that's really like a key thing, Lorraine, is just all these stories we make up. And so I don't see that the issue is they don't want to connect or be in connection with people. They just don't know how to do it. Like they're just
Mm.
not confident, like I said, about what to say, and they feel awkward. And that's what makes them salesy and pushy. And I also teach them about letting go of your agenda, letting go of the attachment to the results. Because if you call that person trying to get them to become a client and to sell to them, they will feel that energy, because energy is very subtle but very powerful, as you know,
Mhm.
right? And so we have to just have a pure intention. And when I follow up with people, they thank me all the time for following up with them, because they feel that I care about them. And also people have been so isolated that they love that when somebody calls them, because people don't usually call, they email. And so they really feel like I care about them. They really feel that I'm providing value and I'm putting their best interests. That's top. That's like it's top of mind for me, is to show up in service, to see what they need and what they're interested in, not what I need and what I'm interested in.
Yeah, and I mentioned that at the top of the show. I mean, sometimes the reason we don't follow up is because we're actually self-absorbed and
Yeah,
we're feeling like, oh, as you said, those stories they don't want to hear, blah, 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 blah. But when we can change that, those inner saboteurs, change that mindset to one of service and listening to others and understanding what it is that they want, need, or desire,
exactly.
we
That's a
we we approach from a different perspective.
that's a key thing that I talk about with my clients, is just being a good listener, like asking powerful questions, getting curious, and being really present and being a good listener. It's one of the biggest gifts that you can give people, is to be present with them. And even when you're at a networking event, if you're going out to live events, to just be so present with people. Oh, Erica, being genuine is so great. Being
Mm,
so present with people and genuine and authentic with them, and not looking around the room. Because when you're talking to somebody in a networking event and they're looking around the room, you don't feel like they're making you a priority. It doesn't feel good, right? So just be laser focused on the person you're talking to. And then when the time is, it's time to move on to meet another person, you just complete the conversation. But when you're with them, you're just focused, you're making eye contact with them, and you're not getting distracted.
yeah, and I love what you just said there, when it's time to move on, and we've only got 1 or 2 minutes left. So, would you like to end the show with when it is time to move on? Like at the end, you've had a conversation. When it's time to move on, what's your advice about how to do that?
Well, when you're networking, the whole point is to meet as many people as you possibly can, but to also be with people long enough to create a connection. So there's a
Mm,
balance. So as soon, like if you meet somebody, you think there's a good connection for you to collaborate, for instance, you just want to make the appointment right then, right? And then say, it's been so nice meeting you. I can't wait for us to connect next week. And I know you want to meet some more people, as I do as well. So we'll, have fun, and I'll see you later, right? So it has to be long enough that you've created a connection, you've learned about each other enough to know, yes, we want to get together, or no, we're not a good fit. Or maybe somebody's leaning in, interested in being a client, finding out what you do for them. Like maybe they're leaning in because they're interested in getting support. So you have to just use your intuition and know when it's time. But you don't want to spend, your whole time with one person. The whole point at the networking events is to meet as many people as you can, and then have follow-up meetings for coffee or tea or drinks or whatever, where you'll deepen the relationship. And that's where the follow-up comes in. So when you first meet the relationship is just getting initiated. The follow-up is how you're deepening that connection, nurturing that relationship step by step. So you're going to get to know them more when you meet with them for coffee. It doesn't have to be there on the spot.
and I love that because that also relates to dating and other relationships. I mean, people walk around like, "Are you my person? Are you my person? Are you my like?" Stop it.
I know. So that's another quick thing, is to don't go to events looking for clients. Go looking for people you're going to partner up with. Like you and I have partnered up. We have similar clients and we're supporting each other. We're going to both in the long run have so many more clients signing up to work with us versus us just going to an event looking for a client.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different mindset shift around networking.
I love that. Thank you, Debbie. And in the last moments, is there any message that you have for our listeners that you haven't been able to deliver at this point, or how can they best contact you to follow up?
So you're here because you have a gift to share with the world. And if you're an entrepreneur, my mission is to support you, to share your gifts and get your message out in the biggest way possible so that you can impact the lives of so many people. There's my website, powerupyourfollowup.com. If you want to get in touch with me directly, there's a contact form there, but you can also email me at debbie@powerupyourfollowup.com. But if you're here to make a difference and you have a gift, please reach out, because if you don't have the sales and follow-up piece in place, you're going to be the best kept secret, and it's going to be more of a struggle to grow your business. My whole, system is about, growing your business with ease and grace, like to have it be simpler and easier and not so much of a struggle, right? So it's just essential. You can't build a sustainable business and impact a lot of people's lives without a sales and follow-up system in place.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for such insight and for all that we've covered today. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today and to offer our listeners and watchers so much gold, so much wonderful wisdom.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for being here. And as I say at the end of most shows, I am your host, Lorraine LaPointe. And I am, my company is Head Heart Synergy, reminding you that you are at the edge of fulfillment. And when we're there, we always have a choice. We can stay on the edge, getting what we've already got, or we can become courageous, reach out, follow up, and move just beyond the edge to get what you really want. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.